Hello and welcome back to the Will I Vike It podcast. Today I'm at Prehistorisch Dorp in the Netherlands and my guest is Yvonne Lammers. Hopefully
Hello.
I said that right.
Yeah, you
After
said it
the
right.
brief. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I've come into the future a little bit from what I normally do. And we've come to the 14th century
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about your project. So you're currently living as close as you can to a 14th century lifestyle.
Yeah, I do that for 2 months, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
We try to replicate the 14th century, yes, as a crafts family.
Yeah.
We do have a big garden and we do have animals, but we're actually weavers.
Okay.
So, and I'm doing mostly the cooking and preserving food from the garden.
Yeah.
And making cheese and making butter. Because it's the summer and we have to prepare for winter.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of preserving and fermenting and all these kind of things. Yeah.
It's interesting because that's a lot like for the Viking age. You know, you're preparing your goods for later use rather than for now.
I think it's actually the same as in the Iron Age.
Yeah.
It's the thing you do in summer. When you have animals and you have chickens and you have to be prepared for winter.
Absolutely, yeah. So we were lucky enough yesterday actually that Yvonne fed us all. We had a nice feast around this table. We had a vegetable stew.
Yeah.
Which was all from the garden.
Yeah, it's basically what we eat. We eat either stew or soup, depending on the amount of water that's in it. And a lot of veggies at the moment because the meat, I want to save it for the winter.
Yeah.
We can't slaughter now, only some small animals. And a lot of game is prohibited for me.
Is it?
As a crafts person, yes. It's
okay.
Only for the, what's that? Adel. It's not a royalty, but the important people, they are allowed to eat game and I'm not.
Okay, so sort of like higher status?
Yeah, when you're in higher status, yeah.
Okay, but you're allowed your own animals?
My own animals, yes. Yeah. And so if you have a cockerel or something, you could eat it now. Yeah.
But that would be, you're saying, more for winter though, so you keep your meat for winter time?
Yeah. So I only eat a little bit salted fish and the rest is just vegetables and dairy products.
Yeah. So I guess we could go back to sort of why you started the project, really.
Yeah.
What gave you the idea? And
I started this because I needed an adventure. My kids are leaving the house and I wanted to do something bigger than just my normal work.
Yeah.
And the other thing was that I wanted really to decorate this house as if somebody's really living in it, because normally it's a museum piece and then you prepare it for visitors, so keeping everything safe and I would really, I thought it would be really nice to see the house, when you live in it, and what extras do you need. And then the third reason was that I'm an archaeologist, so I know a lot of archaeologists, experts, and because of my work in the museum, I also know a lot of craftspeople, and I wanted to bring them together because they are approaching the same topic but from another angle. And I think it's interesting to have discussions with those people and see what we can figure out together. And it turns out that it generates more questions than answers, but it's still a lot of fun to have more questions and to think about things that you normally don't think about. And it's also coming from using the house and things like, where do you get your firewood if you live in a 14th century town? You know, you can't just go out and see what you can find. You have to organize those things, and that's actually with a lot of things, that you have to organize it as a town. And those are the things that you normally don't think about, but because we just have firewood. you know. So
It's easy to get. Yeah.
yeah.
So where do you get your firewood? Good question.
Yeah, well, it's actually it is organized. So you have special woods for fire. There are woods where they grow twigs for making basketry, or branches, all kinds of specific areas that are dedicated to a specific need that there is in the town. So this is all organized by the people in charge, and that's really interesting. And you can actually buy it at a market, so you don't have to go and get it yourself. You can buy it at a market if you want, and probably some people just go and get it once or twice a year somewhere. But it turns out that the 14th century is much more organized as a place where you really live together as a community than I thought it would be. I'm a prehistorian from origin, and I always thought that, well, after the Romans it all turns nasty and everybody is working for himself and is in competition. And I now realize more and more that it's not really competition. It's also thinking about how to work together well and proper, and to make things easier. It's actually smart to have one bakery and one person firing the oven instead of everybody doing that for himself. So it's not really competition, it's really working as a community, and that's interesting.
And you wouldn't have time to do all those things anyway. By the time you went to fell a tree and get your firewood and bring it in, and yeah, that's true. And I think the whole surplus making, what we do as weavers, can only be done if you organize it like this. So when you're self-sufficient, you can't do all these extras, and the town makes that possible. So that's interesting. Yeah, because you've got a setup here with sort of your town square outside. So how many people would generally live in? Around
2,000.
2,000? Yeah. That's quite big.
Yeah, and that's a small town. And because our house is a replica from an Eindhoven find. And Eindhoven was a rather small town with a lot of gardens in it, big gardens also, while other cities were much more, or there were more houses on the same area. And so, it's a rather small town.
And so most of your food's coming from this garden. Would that be typical at the time, or would they be farming as well?
For the vegetables it would, and for the cereals they would have the farmers outside of the city. And then for meat you have your own pig and probably also sheep, because the sheep you also keep for the milk. And then you would have some ducks, probably some geese and some chickens. So it's still, for a large part, self-sustainable. But for instance, fish you would get on the market. Sometimes dried meat during the summer you could get on the market. Firewood and of course all the things like iron tools, wooden bowls, leather pouches, all these things you probably rather buy. But I think also during the discussions we discover more and more that it's must have been also very depending on your family. Whether you have 2 daughters or 2 sons or small children. If you have small children, they won't bring in much. They won't be able to do much. But if you have bigger kids, then they probably can also go fishing or whatever, and then you don't need to buy the fish. On the other hand, there are also kinds of laws that are prohibiting fishing as well. So game and fishing, that's difficult. It's all for the noblemen.
Would they forage as well?
No, not much. No. it's all illegal. Everything is owned by someone, so
that makes it difficult.
Yeah, and that's a big difference compared to the early medieval times.
Yeah,
where a lot of land is not claimed yet. That's different.
It's interesting to think of it from a modern perspective as well. I mean, we buy most of our produce, but people are starting to move back, aren't they, and start to try and grow veg and stuff. Yeah. And I've tried it, and it's hard. Like, to have a job and a garden.
Is. Yeah, and that's why it's so important to work together and not. Well, of course, I always also thought that living self-sufficient would be the ideal thing, but now I really think that if you can organize a community that's not fighting over what's broken and what should be replaced, etc., then that's a more ideal situation. So the whole idea behind society is actually a good idea, but you have to see that you have to work together and not against each other and not competing. And for us, that's a difficult thing, I think. And it's also what I hear from visitors, that they all see what the advantage is of working together, but they all give the example, if you share something and then it gets broke, who's going to pay for it? And that's a more important question to modern people than anything else. Which is a pity, of course. Yeah.
So was there any particular thing that you sort of wanted to learn from doing this?
No. Yeah. Well, I was just wondering what questions would pop up, and a lot of questions popped up. So that's a nice. And for myself, I really was looking forward to, and it's also fulfilled, to do everything I do normally when I'm on holiday, but then without the modern equipment. So making cheese without a thermometer, and we're going to make herbal oil in the medieval way, and that's nice. But even baking bread without timing or whatever, just feeling and wishing for the best. That's really nice when it works out. And and all kinds of things that after a couple of weeks making all the fires with flint and steel, it's really easy now, and that's just for me personally a nice thing, because I knew all those techniques, but doing it for this long every day, that's nice.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot different, because you do this anyway as a job, but doing it and going home again is very different to having to actually.
Definitely, and even because for 4 years I also stayed here for a couple of weeks or 4 weeks in the early medieval times actually, but then during the evenings we do eat chips, and we do eat sometimes even marshmallows, and I don't do that now. Or maybe. Never, but
you try to be quite strict.
I try to be quite strict,
and that's
exactly, and that's nice. I think it's I enjoy that a lot. And it makes it different. Because then you really. I also start smelling differently, for instance. So I'm so much in this environment now, and that's maybe it's also because it's inside and I'm used to live in the tent, which means that you're a lot outside. But here I have the smoke in my nose constantly, and the soup and the dairy products and whatever. And if somebody is perfumed and is standing in the window, that's is hitting me. That's, so I do smell all these flowery smells much stronger than normally. Especially if they're chemical, and it's funny to notice. It doesn't really say anything about medieval times, and it's not scientific at all. And I don't want to act like it is, but it's funny to notice all these things happening.
Absolutely.
So
Because you mentioned you bake bread, so you bake bread in the house?
No, in the oven actually where you are.
Oh yes, yeah.
That's why I don't do it that much, because well, it's too far away from the house to keep it safe for the visitors.
Yeah.
And yeah, normally in the 14th century you would go to the bakery. So
yeah. So
I don't need to make.
Yeah. So not many people have got an oven at the time. It's more.
No, nobody did.
Yeah.
No, it's a real profession, and if you want to bake something like a pie or whatever, you have to wait until the baker blows his horn when he finished the bread, and then you can bring your pie, and then he will bake it for you in whatever is left of the warmth in the oven. Okay. So, yeah, the ideal thing would be that you and Monique would fire the oven today, and that I could just bring my bread and then
cook it. Well, we can arrange that.
No,
I'm here all afternoon.
Yeah.
An evening.
Yeah, but you have other plans. It's also nice.
Yeah.
So, no, but that is basically the 14th century ID.
Mm. But so would a baker be using an oven the same as that one? So like a clay?
Yes, a little bit bigger and a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So it's easier to fill it, but it would be basically the same. And you can do two things. You can use it as a pizza oven, so keep the fire in it on the sides.
Yeah.
And then, for instance, bake small pies or whatever. Actually, we've done that, my son and I, a couple of times now. And then you keep it open. Or you just use it as a bread oven, and you burn it, and then you take the fire out, and then you use the warmth that's inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've done both, and it works well.
Yeah.
But it's too small for a bakery in the city.
As far as your experiment goes, then, so you're buying bread from a baker. How are you working this with, like, financially? How does that work? Yeah. Are you on like a budget for what?
Yeah, I have a budget. Yeah. So I also go to the Iron Cow to get my milk.
Yeah.
But we're very fortunate that next to the museum is a farmer.
Yeah.
A biological farmer, and he's selling bread of his own grain.
Yeah.
And raw milk. So it's just
it's
just a 5 minutes walk, and it's my neighbor. So that feels good, and that's the only thing I buy. So that budget is not really extensive.
It's good that you can get raw milk as well. I don't know whether we'd be able to get it where we are. I don't think we would.
No, we're very lucky with that, because it's also in the Netherlands it's not easy to get it.
Yeah. Because it's quite pasteurization, I think, only came in, 100 years ago or something?
Yeah.
It's quite not a modern thing.
Yeah, it's quite a modern thing.
Yeah.
And well, as long as it's not overheated, you can still make cheese of it. But this is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really fun project. I like it. Kind of gets you thinking about what other eras. I think you said you've done prehistory. Before.
Yeah, I've done Iron Age.
Yeah.
For a couple of weeks, and Viking Age. But I wanted to do this because, well, A, I've never done it, and B, you should know more about this time. So I thought. And then still, it turns out that you don't know.
Yeah.
So you don't know so many things. It's we're lacking knowledge, definitely a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to read something, but
so that's nice.
Yeah. Did you, because 14th century, you'd have recipes to go on as well?
Yeah, but only for the rich.
Okay.
So there are some recipes, not books yet, but there are some manuscripts.
Maybe
and they're clearly for rich people, with a lot of spices and dried fruits. And it's a bit like Roman age food in the way that they combine a lot of savory tastes with sweet tastes. So the other day there was a cook for a week here during the project, and she made a pie and used cow, rabbit, all kinds of dried fruits, and even some honey water in it. So it's mixed taste, and well, they grow on you, but no, it's clear that they use it to impress their guests.
Yeah,
you know, because they also use cardamom and cloves and cinnamon and all these kinds of and long pepper or even real pepper and so.
But more to show off than for the flavors themselves.
Yeah, well, they're good flavors.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would put them all in one pie. But yeah, it's showing off, and we do know about you know, these pies with birds on top, and, really exaggerating luxury and richness. Actually. Yeah.
But you're pretty much sticking to the pork. Not so many pies.
Not so many pies, and not so many spices. Once a week I bake a pie for my visitors during the discussion Thursday, and then I use the spices. But I have a lot of spices actually. All these things like thyme and rosemary, etc., and garlic and onions and mustard. So I can actually make a lot of different flavors with that only. And then combined with the vegetables, if you use like fennel, you can really have a different taste from last meal. No, I think it's also in the creativity of the cook to work with what I have, and that's well, compared to the Iron Age, it's really good.
I say, I mean, a lot of it from what I do, it sounds very similar.
It is.
There's not, although you're a few hundred years later.
No, I don't think there's a real big difference. We do know that in the 12th century, all these Eastern spices come, like ginger and galanga and nutmeg. All these things come in. But for the common people, maybe once a year at Christmas or something that you can afford that. So, but I think that in the 14th century they do know those flavors. Everybody does. Well, if you have some money.
As a treat.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any changes physically? Because your diet, I presume, has changed quite a lot. If you're having less processed sugar and that kind of thing.
No.
Energy
I think
levels.
I'm normally quite healthy as well, so it didn't really change. What I did notice was that I was cooking in a lot of, often in an iron pot. So I
high iron.
so that you do notice that in your bowels somewhere.
I wonder, because I've got a friend in Scotland, and she's been part of this project, which I'm going to record an episode with her. And she's doing this wild biome project, so they're eating purely wild food. But they are doing scientific tests to see how it affects them physiologically.
I didn't want to do that because I don't want to be the project about me. I want to be it about a house and the experts that we have, the experiments that we do, but not so much about my body, because I already decided up front that it wouldn't be an expedition. So if I get sick, I'll take my vitamins, and I look after myself.
Look after yourself still,
because there's no point in me being sick here, because other than other projects maybe, we are open to visitors, and 7 days a week there are visitors, and I have to, basically I have to work for 58 days in a row. So that's it's challenging in itself. And I do take my my normal medicines, and I also brush my teeth because I want to keep them for another 40 years. And I don't think it really adds to the project if I leave that out. The visitors won't notice. And that's also in the water. We know that the soil here is contaminated, so I just use tap water. Because it's safe.
That's fair enough. If the groundwater is contaminated, does that affect your vegetables? I know in some places in the world you're not supposed to grow.
No, it's not. It's not that bad, and it's deeper. But for water, it would be it would be bad, but not for vegetables.
I think that's a fair acceptance that you didn't safe water. You don't want to get sick or die from the project. So.
No.
Yeah,
definitely not.
It's not worth it. No. I'm just looking around. You've got a lot of lovely pots and things around here.
Yeah, and there's still not enough. That was one of the that was one of the things that I discovered in the early days already. That you have so much need for storage for all these things like peas and lentils and all the kinds of flowers that I have, and then I wanted to ferment, and you have to do that in pots as well. So that's never enough.
Yeah.
And all my herbs are in small pots, and it's never enough. Yeah. And it was funny because when I gathered all the things that I would need here, I suddenly realized that even in the 14th century, you still have a lot of stuff. Yeah. It's
it's a very full house. I mean, there's stuff.
Yeah, and then there's no garden tools, and they should be here as well. So I'm still lacking things that should be here.
Yeah.
And one of the discussions was also about how much storage you do have. Is that for a week, for a month, for the whole year? In August I go to the market. What do I buy? Do I buy it for 1 week? Can I trust the farmer to get back next week so I can get the other thing that I needed? Or do you really have to think about, okay, we are being with 6 people and we need each 1 kilo of food every day. So, that would mean 2,000 kilograms of food that you have to think about for a year. And where are you going to put it? And what do you store it in? Do you have things like wooden storages, or is it linen bags that we have to make, and we have to weave it? So that's and that's a question that even the experts can't really answer. Most experts say, okay, it's probably division of risk. So we have some as customers, but also the farmer keeps a part, and a nobleman keep a part, just to be sure that whoever gets rot or rats or whatever can rely on somebody else.
Something else.
But for the house, it means a lot if you have to keep it all for a whole year inside here, being with 6 people also. And a lot of visitors, they look at the house and they say, oh, it's quite big. But if you're actually living here with 6 people and you do have all your garden tools, etc. in it, and all your storage, then I don't think it's that big. It's okay. I mean, it's not a tiny house, but it's
It's almost one room, isn't it? So it's kind of, you can't get away from anybody.
No. Well, we actually don't know if it was like that. And what we do see is that every picture of or a drawing of somebody in bed, it's always like you're looking through curtains. So there were probably a lot of curtains. You can make cozy corners for 1 or 2 people just by putting up curtains, and it would be nicer actually in the winter also, because it's a very drafty house. So in the winter you would need that. And even when it was very hot, you have the workroom in the front, which also is your store. And it was very hot, and I wanted to clean the floor. But I kept my woolen dress on because I was visible for the visitors, and I wouldn't go standing here in my underwear, of course. But normally you would do that, and if you have curtains, so you can close the shop from what's the house in the back, that would be possible. So and it would change the house if you put curtains up.
It's interesting, even just because as you're talking, it's making me think of more questions. Like you said, you get more questions.
You get more and more questions.
Because then, like, well, hang on. So your clothes get dirty. So where are you washing your clothes?
Outside. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do a lot of things outside containing if it concerns water.
Yeah.
So the dishes also, and washing myself. But we were just talking this morning that this house really lacks a kind of shed, half-open shed, where you can do dirty work or work with water for dishes or washing when it's raining.
Yeah.
Because I'm a bit worried at the moment about all my clothes getting really wet or dirty, and I can't dry them fast enough to keep clean clothes.
Yeah.
And of course, well, again, I'm not getting a pneumonia, so I can always cheat, but I don't want to cheat because I want to see. I made another underdress just for because it was so rainy.
Yeah.
And then I have enough dresses that they can dry for 2 days instead of 1 day.
Okay.
That
would be more difficult in winter again because it wouldn't dry.
Definitely. So you do need a lot of underwear. You do need a lot of underdresses, and maybe you hang them over the fire, and then then they smell like smoke.
But they're clean.
But they're clean.
Yeah.
And not muddy, and not wet. Because I took one out of my chest this morning, and it was really, this clammy. Wet. Yeah.
And we know now about things like clothes moths.
Yeah.
So presumably the smoke would keep all that.
Yeah,
away. So
definitely.
There's a benefit to smoking your clothes.
Yeah. That's why also the wool is all hanging on the walls.
Yeah.
So we keep the linens in the chest, and the wool is hanging on the walls, because movement and fiddling with it would keep the moths away as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I say, it's funny because since we've been talking, you just start to think, oh, well, what about this and how about that?
Yeah.
It does change so much.
Yeah. And I think because I'm here for 2 months, that you very quickly also forget all these things because they're now logical to me or something. So I have to really start writing fast about all the things that I find out or discover or whatever, or experience.
Is that the plan? Are you going to write a paper or a book?
Yeah, both, probably.
Both.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah.
I like writing, so it's a good excuse to write.
Well, and I guess entertainment in the evening, are you allowed to sit and write?
I keep a diary, which is on our website. So I do write, and but mostly in the early mornings. I'm an early riser, so I go to bed at 9 and I wake up at 5 and I start writing, and then at about 8:30 then I start my medieval day.
Yeah, because you were saying yesterday about like access to news and stuff as well, like how little access you've got. Yeah. Because you mentioned the time in the when you were in the Iron Age?
Yeah.
You had.
Yeah. There was a long time ago, but it was that was before the internet and the smartphone. So,
so you got a bit more
it was
now.
easy. It was easier to keep the world at bay.
Yeah.
Now it's more difficult because I do need to email the guests that are coming every week, and then it's very tempting to see some news.
Yeah.
Almost, impossible
resist
to avoid.
Yeah.
To resist maybe, but to avoid it. And also the visitors and the employees, everybody's bringing in news. So I didn't know about the big fires in Crete, I think it was, or in Greece. Yeah. And then a visitor just told me, I can't keep them from telling me things.
Yeah.
So,
that's another interesting perspective of living this as well, is like back then you would have only had access to sort of local news really on a scale, and whether that would be better for us mentally. Yeah, do we have
I
too
guess
much
so
now?
Because you can't change it.
It's like
whether you know it or don't, it doesn't really change anything.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think we should move on to the questions that I ask every guest. So the first question is, if you had an unlimited budget, what would be your dream project?
Oh, wow. That's a difficult question.
I could say, you could almost say you're already doing it.
Yeah. Well, if I had an unlimited budget, and no responsibilities.
Yeah.
Then I would do this with more people.
Yeah.
And without visitors.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kick them out.
Yeah, well, I don't hate my visitors, but it's more difficult to get
a distraction.
Yeah. Because you want to tell them and you want to involve them. So, yeah, I think I would. Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of like your example where you were saying about cleaning, and there's
exactly.
a limit.
Yeah.
You're still putting limits on the project because of the access.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you need a closed-off village.
Yeah,
more
that would
houses,
be nice. Yeah, and then all my friends. That would be good.
More crafters and bakers and
yeah. And I think there's a nice community in the Netherlands that would jump up and join me. So yeah, that would be fun.
Okay, so the next question is: do you think you could survive on a Viking Age diet? I think this is going to be obvious.
Yeah. I think I could. Yeah.
Based on what we've said, I think that's fairly obvious.
Yeah.
And this one probably is more appropriate for you, really. Is there any food you'd miss if you were on a Viking Age diet? You could almost draw on your current experience.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Well, yeah, chili.
Chili.
Yeah.
Yes.
In
that's
the
a
end,
good
I
answer.
would miss chili.
I think that's the first time that's come up.
Yeah.
We get lots of coffee, chocolate.
No, coffee, chocolate. Yeah.
Tea.
No chili. But I lived for a while in Sri Lanka, and I had a lot of rice and curries and chili. I really like that. I would miss that in the end. That there's never a real big kick in your food. Yeah.
That's something else then. My mind went off because I was thinking, so like rice and things you don't have access to.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think I would miss it because that's such just the basis. It's just, it's all about flavors that you can make with vegetables and sauces and meat. Yeah.
Brilliant. What's the worst thing you've ever eaten?
Ooh. Organs.
Organs. Just general organs.
Yeah. Kidneys and head cheese.
Oh, head cheese. I made head cheese recently. That wasn't too bad, I thought.
Yeah, but it's the idea and and blood sausage.
Blood sausage.
Yeah, I really don't like those things. My mother used to make them a lot when I was a child, and I didn't like it. And actually, I never had it after, so it could also be a lack of seasoning or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really didn't like the texture of the blood, the grainy thing. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. No, historically, it's a difficult one to do because we've tried to do Viking Age, but then you're taking out sort of like your nutmeg and your spices and things and stripping it back. Yeah.
It is a bit boring.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one. But the reason she laughed is because that's my next job this afternoon is we're making blood sausage and recording another episode.
Yeah. So
which I'll have to release these in order now. So you won't be eating that?
No. I'll skip it. I like to see it, but no.
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
Okay, so next question is, what's the most memorable meal you've ever had? I'm reckoning you've had a fair few in places like this. But they're not the most memorable, I think. I think eating and food is all about your company, and of course it's good when it's good food. But if the ambience and the people and the music are good, then even bland food can be kind of enriched by everything around it. Yeah. So for me, the most memorable is, I think, the meals that I shared in Sri Lanka, sitting on the kitchen floor where we were cooking over the fire inside the kitchen under the window with the women after we served the man who were in the living room eating. But this kind of women who sharing
in the kitchen and having the best pieces, of course, because we kept them behind.
Yeah.
That
Goes back to community again.
I really liked that. Yeah, that was really nice. And not because it were just women, but because of the feeling of being together there, and it was a lot of work that we did on the food, 3 times a day.
Yeah.
But I really liked that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something as well, if you've been working all day and sitting down as a community and eating what you've produced.
Yeah.
It's rewarding.
That's definitely. Yeah. So for me, that's more important than the meal itself, than the thing that you eat. Yeah.
So the very last question is: you've died, your family and friends are preparing your grave goods. What food and drink do you get to take to feast in Valhalla? Obviously, slightly Viking themed.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Well, I definitely like meat. A good dry white meat would be nice. And I think I would like maybe a good meat stew, a beef stew. Oh, yeah, that's nice. With some good fresh bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something you probably haven't had much of here.
No, exactly. No. And but I like that it's just good food and rather humble or something. For me, it doesn't need to be a big party with a lot of dishes. No, just
one pot.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you again for recording.
You're welcome.
It's been fun.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed the podcast or want to hear more, remember to like and subscribe and give me a rating. For recipes and ideas, visit my website saxonforager.co.uk. I also have 3 cookbooks available to buy on Amazon worldwide. These are Eat Like a Viking Volumes 1 and 2 and Eat Like a Halfling. Thanks for watching.